Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Sunrise on the Inside podcast, a space where we share inspiring interviews and stories from thoughtful leaders in business, health and wellness, entrepreneurship and sports. Here we talk about tools, habits, routines and tactics they use that help them feel calm, revived and rebalanced whenever they face challenges in life. I'm your host, Nico Estrella, a serial entrepreneur, former professional soccer player and co-founder of Waku. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode number 7 of the Sunrise on the Inside podcast. I have a very special guest today. It's Michelle Zellner. She's an author, health and happiness strategist, and corporate wellness trainer. She's an expert on mindset and an expert in wellness and health. I am super excited for the conversation that we're going to have today. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Nico. It's really fun to be here. And I just have to say up front, I love talking to somebody with an accent. So this is going to be a true joy for me.
Awesome. I just hope my accent doesn't get in the way of the questions at all.
Not at all. I grew up with accents. My mom is from the Netherlands, so I'm used to it.
Oh, nice. That's perfect then. So I wanted to start our conversation trying to getting to know you a little bit better. So I did the research and I read a little bit more about you, and I know that at the beginning of your career, because you've been a wellness coach and a kind of just like a coach in general for more than 20 years, right? And I know that you started more as a personal trainer, just like more for exercise, right? So I was very curious to learn more a little bit about the story on how was that evolution from you were a professional gymnast before, right? So if you can tell us a little bit more about that story from becoming a gymnast to personal trainer and then to becoming a coach.
Yeah, well, it was a very unplanned, organic evolution, I would say. I did gymnastics my whole childhood. And so, exercise and just sports and being competitive has always kind of been part of my life. But at one point, finally decided it was time to hang up the grips and just be a normal person. And I really still was very passionate about fitness and exercise. And so eventually decided to become a personal trainer. Now, this is way back in the early to mid 90s before personal training was really a thing. So it was still a little bit, it was a little out of the mainstream, let's say. But I loved it. It was everything I loved. It was helping people change their bodies, helping people really change their minds, because what I found was it was so much more human connection, talking to people about their challenges of the day or challenges that they were having with a child or a significant other or whatever. And it was a lot of problem solving and sort of therapy-ish. And as wellness evolved and as I evolved as my own human on my own journey, I really got more into that part of the whole aspect of personal wellness. And so I do very little personal training anymore. It's still a tiny fraction of what I do. But I would say probably since about 2010, really dove deep into corporate wellness trainings, teaching lunch and learn, stress management, mindset, goal setting, how to stay healthy when you're traveling on the road, how to eat healthy on the go, all those kind of things that people can struggle with when we're living very busy lives. And that also evolved into just a whole catalog of different types of trainings on all different topics that cover physical, mental, and emotional well-being, all the things that I think are important to be a healthy human being, or what I like to call a better being, which is the name of my business. And so here we are, 2021, almost 2022, and mostly doing that kind of stuff, do conference speaking, event speaking, workshops, virtually, in person. And I also do individual and private events as well. So whether it's somebody who wants some one-on-one coaching or to join in on one of my on-site or virtual workshops or the 10-week program that I run, the U Revolution, there's literally an opportunity for just about anybody to participate in the things that I have to offer.
That's amazing. It's very interesting to hear that process. And I have a couple of follow up questions. So first, um, whenever you were doing this transition from being the personal trainer, and I guess at the beginning for you it felt kind of like more. Did it feel like natural for you to be able to give more advice? Regarding other topics besides just the exercise, because like I've had a couple of not personal trainers per se, but I've been to a couple of gyms where I had a trainer that teaches me how to do exercise and whatnot. But I do think that you either need to have like I'm not sure if it's like a talent or like like a like a calling, or you have to be just like good at listening to people and just like good at giving advice. Did did that feel natural for you, or was something that you started to learn as you were getting to know more your customers and getting to know like trying to help them more? How was that transition for you?
Yeah, it actually felt very natural. I think it depends on what your client is looking for. So if there's a client who's, getting ready to compete in a physique competition, they don't need the psychology, the chit chat while you're working out. But a lot of people, it really is about personal relationship, and I in my own practice, personal training was 90% communication and people skills and 10% here's a program, here's a workout, here's what we do to address the physical goals that we're trying to reach. But absolutely, it's people skills, it's communication skills, it's being able to connect and relate and build trust. And I think all of that comes from learning a little bit on a deeper level about the people that you're working with on a regular basis. And I'm really happy to say that even though I don't do a lot of personal training anymore, a lot of the clients that I have had throughout the years, I would still say we are friends. We stay connected. We stay involved and checking in on each other's lives. Certainly not everybody, because that would be too many, but you really do develop. At least I did. I developed some pretty solid connections through that, and I think it is part of your innate characteristics, what you feel comfortable with. And I know, certainly, I mean, I was 24 years old when I started as a personal trainer, which I'm almost 49 now. So that really does feel like a whole other lifetime ago. But a lot of the clients actually went through some really difficult times with me, of my own life with me. So in some ways, they became part of my family and part of my support system as well.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, I can definitely see that, because like for me, I know a lot of the times. So I used to play professionally soccer when I was younger, like whenever I was 17, 18 years old. And of course, whenever I was playing professionally, I was super into training and very disciplined and all that, right? But after I stopped playing professionally, exercising was still an important part of my life. But now that you mention it, I know that I've been on and off from doing exercises, and most of the times when I struggle the most in just like keep going to the gym, or keep running, or keep doing an exercise, it's a lot of mental, right? Because like a lot of times I know like the basics on how to do an exercise. Maybe I don't need somebody to just like teach me every day how to do the same thing. But having that help, having that extra guidance, and on how to just like break the mental barriers, I think it's super helpful. And I have a couple of questions about that we can keep talking today. But that's a very interesting evolution of the profession. Have you seen that this is common for kind of like personal trainers to become more like holistic coaches?
I think that is becoming more mainstream. I know when I took my certification for personal training way back, it was very clear. You do not step outside your lines. You know about the physical being, and that is it. You don't talk about nutrition. You don't talk about anything. You should not establish a personal relationship with these people. That was actually the general guideline that we were supposed to be following. I didn't feel like for me that was natural. So I tend to do what feels right. And if a client didn't gel with me, that's okay. I mean, we're not each for everybody. But I think, wellness has definitely evolved. I mean, back when I was a trainer, this didn't exist. The idea of a health coach, it wasn't a thing. And yet I've been health coaching since before it was a thing, only because I think I'm incredibly interested, and I know that there's always a deeper reason why somebody is or isn't doing something. And I don't know if that's just my own human curiosity. I've kind of always been like that. I've always contemplated and wondered about things, people. My mom would say I inherited that from her father, except she's adopted, so so I didn't, because it's not her biological dad. But still, there's just something I think in each of us, and some of us are very much more in tune and want to get to know on a personal level and to look at things in the big picture. And some people are very focused and very specialized in what they do. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think there's definitely space for all of it, and it's just about finding your niche and finding what aligns with you and the clientele that's going to appreciate the skills and the talents that you have.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know that before we started our conversation today, we were talking a little bit, and I know that you had kind of like a revelation at a young age that you weren't quite the person you thought you were. So I wanted to ask you if you can expand a little bit more on what was that revelation, and what did you learn there?
Yeah, so that revelation was in third grade in Mrs. Zimmerman's class. Uh, so my name is Michelle Zellner. At least that's what I always thought my name was. And in the States, at least in our school, in grade school, you were seated in order of your name alphabetically. So I'm always last, right? And she's going down the roll call, and I hear her calling names, and she's not calling mine yet, so I'm not paying attention. And she keeps saying this name over and over, Paula Zellner, Paula Zellner. And I hear Zellner, and I'm like, well, well, that's me. And I said, well, my last name is Zellner, but my name is Michelle. And she said, oh, I don't have a Michelle Zellner. I have a Paula Zellner. And so there was a lot of confusion. And so she calls some places, and I finally get home and tell my parents the story. And my mom said, oh, yeah, your name actually is Paula. It's Paula Michelle. That's your given name on your birth certificate. And I was like, well, how come I'm 8 years old right now, and I've never known my real name? Well, because I wasn't supposed to be a girl. I was supposed to be a boy, and my name was going to be Martin George.
Uh-huh.
Well, then out comes a girl, and my mom was a little, at a loss as to what to name me. So it was Paula Michelle after my father, Paul Michael. But nobody liked the name Paula. So from literally the minute I was born, they called me Michelle. And so that was my very first introduction of, oh, okay, I'm not really who I thought I was, but kind of a funny story. So
I love that story. I think in my case, my first name is Enrique, so I am Enrique Nicolas, uh, but my dad's name is Enrique. So I know that how the story for in my case is that when I was born, I was supposed to have only one name. I was supposed to just be named Nicolas Estrella. Um, but when my dad went to the city hall to register my birth and then get the birth certificate and all that, his name is Enrique. So him, without telling my mom, he just like registered me as Enrique Nicolás Estrella, and my mom got like pissed at him because like, oh, this was not the name that we agreed on, and why did you put him your name? And I was just like, I am the second child. My first my older sibling is, I have a sister and an older sister and a younger sister. So I don't know, probably I don't know why my dad did that. Probably he was like feeling super proud of having a boy, so he did that. And since I have a memory, every time I don't know, I started primary school, I went to high school, my mom always would tell the teachers, please call him Nicolas, don't call him Enrique, please call him Nicolas, not Enrique. So all my life I also been through like having the teacher sometimes calling me Enrique Estrella, and sometimes I'm just like not paying attention because I don't react to that name a lot. So I have I have that similarity with you there.
Yeah, well, mine, I when I started filling out college applications is when it really became a problem because you have blocks. This is back in the day when we did pencil and paper applications. You have blocks for a first name and a middle initial. So I was Paula M, except that wasn't right. So we went ahead and legally changed it to P Michelle, which makes things a little easier. So now P Michelle is in the first name block, and there's no middle initial, so it's P Michelle Zellner. So that's how I solved that
Yeah.
issue. But
And
now
for
I know
me,
when I get spam mail or a phone call, may I speak with P? Well, I know
yeah,
that they got my name off of some spam mailing list.
that's good. Yeah, those things are also a bit confusing for me because I have two names and two last names, right? My complete name is Enrique Nicolás Estrella Garcia. So every time I need to fill out a form here in the US, I moved to the US 3 years ago. So every time I need to fill in a form, I'm not sure if my first name counts as Enrique Nicolás or Nicolás is my second name. And if I have two last names, I always fill those forms
Yeah.
differently. So it is a bit,
I think parents don't realize the troubles they cause us when they do things like this.
yeah. Coming back to what we were talking about a little bit before, the name of your company is Better Beings, right?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what is because I know that like the inspiration is better mind, better body, and better beings, right? So I wanted to ask you to share a little bit more. What is a better mind for you? Like what is having a better body, and what does it mean for you to be a better being?
Such a great question. We obviously are a whole being. And I think very often, at least here in Western society, we separate our heads, our emotions from our physical beings. And we talk about mental health and we talk about physical health. And yet, everything is interconnected. If I am not physically well, that's going to have a big impact on my mental and emotional state. If I am maybe challenging or being challenged mentally or emotionally, that's eventually going to affect me physically. So everything is so connected. And I think, what does it mean to be a better being? It really means that if you are in anywhere in your life where you want to be better physically, mentally, or emotionally, and you are ready and willing to do the work that it requires to be better, I think that right there makes you a better being. And how we grow and how we evolve and what we learn and how we challenge ourselves, I mean, all of that is a very unique journey for everybody. So for one person, it might be really working on some aspects of their physical health. For somebody else, it might really be about changing their mindset and their attitude and learning to let go of some things or learning to forgive some things, learning to quiet their very busy mind. And wherever anybody is, if you find some things that either because they're part of your ingrained personality and characteristics, or they have become the result of too many consistent choices over the course of time that has resulted in maybe you being at less than your level 10 best, then we go on that journey. And it really is the journey to get towards being the best version of yourself.
I love that. I couldn't agree more with those statements. Um, I think those resonate a lot with me, and I can see how everything's interconnected as you said. So I really love the name of the company, and I really love the mission and what you stand for. Um,
Thank you.
which brings me to my next question. So I know that sometimes people say things like, "Oh, I'm just not an athletic person." Just like I was, like being athletic was not, it's not in my DNA, or my family has never been like that. So and they think they just can't go for a run, or they can't just like exercise at all, or or sometimes I've heard a lot of like kind of like limiting beliefs, but um, saying things like, "Oh, I just like these eating habits are too ingrained in me. Like it's impossible for me to change those things." Um, what do you say whenever if you have a customer or you have a client that is experiencing this type of thoughts? What have you seen that can help somebody to break those things? Because I know that sometimes they are very very ingrained, right? And it's like being the story that they have been told, maybe from their parents. They have been telling them that since they were kids, or that's the story that they have been telling themselves their whole lives. So it can be very hard to change. Um, where can somebody start to change those things, or how can somebody start to change those things?
Well, it definitely all starts with your internal dialogue and the story you tell yourself. So if you tell yourself, I can't change this, you're right. and you might as well just stop right there. So it really does require first changing the narrative and choosing that you're going to do the hard work. And the reality is change is hard. And yet people say, well, I can't because. And usually the correct phrasing is, I can, it's just really hard, or I'm not ready or willing to because. So I think taking ownership of our choices, and yes, our history is our history and the story that we've been told or that we've told ourselves, okay, but every individual has the choice. You can change your story if you want to. You just have to decide that you want to. And then we have to educate ourselves and set ourselves up for success to make sure that we're putting a real plan and a real strategy in place to be able to make that change happen. And I think maybe the biggest piece of the puzzle and probably the most challenging is to get out of all or nothing mindset, because we I think we've gotten into this place in society where we expect this amazing outcome with little to no effort and it should happen tomorrow. And I did these couple things and nothing changed, so why bother? Or, well, I did it all really good for a while and then I just can't keep doing it, so then I do nothing. And those are usually the reasons that people don't actually see the change happen, because they haven't found the right system or strategy to make this a true new habit so that they do it long enough so that they see the results in the long run. And I think part of it is just because we're very impatient. We don't necessarily want to do the hard work, and change is hard. And so one of my mottos is, it's hard now or harder later. We get to pick. And I mean, I've been on my own journey. That's what I teach about, and how I've gotten through my hard choices and my hard times. And a lot of it really does really come down to making the choice and choosing to learn, to grow, to forgive, to accept, and to just do the best you can with what you've got.
Yeah, totally. Um, so whenever whenever somebody is starting on this journey, right? You talked about this all or nothing kind of mindset that can be one of the biggest challenges for people to actually go through the changes, because like I know that this was the case for me a lot of times. You already know what you have to do. Like, you already know that you have to exercise, you already know that you have to go out for a run, or you already know that you have to walk 10,000 steps, or that you have to be active 30 minutes per day. um, and a lot of times you start with these very good intentions, right? And we don't always follow through with those right intentions. So what have you seen that are other big challenges that people find in this stage? Like, why do you think a lot of times we can't keep the commitment that we did to ourselves? You mentioned this all or nothing mindset, but what are other things that can be harmful at this stage?
I think for a lot of people, we set ourselves up for failure, for not following through, because we set unrealistic expectations. I'm going to take maybe you, for example, Nico. You were a top level athlete, and you probably trained and exercised a certain way. And maybe at some point in the future in your life, you're not going to have the time or the energy to train that way. And so you think, well, what's the point? This is the way I'm supposed to work out. And if I can't do it like this, well, then what's the point of doing anything? And I've actually worked with a number of ex athletes who have that mental block because they are used to a workout looking like this. But their life is very different now from what it looked like when they were an athlete. Maybe now they work a full-time job, they're married with kids, they're juggling career and family. So why would you or should you be able to do what you did before when the life you're living looks nothing like it did before? And so I think we always have to kind of evaluate, where am I currently? What is my current reality? Not what I used to do, what I want to do, what I wish I could do, what somebody told me I should do. Well, I don't have time to do 30 minutes 5 times a week. Okay, well, do you have time for 5 minutes a day? And of course, everybody does. But someone's thinking, well, what's the point of 5 minutes? Well, what's the point of 0 minutes? How far is that going to get you? So I think part of it is really buying in that it's the cumulative effect of all the things that we do day after day after day after day on a consistent basis that's really going to impact the outcome. And we so often are so fixated on the particular outcome that we're looking for. And if we can't achieve it, well, then why bother? And yet, maybe getting closer to the outcome rather than farther away from it is considered success. So I think how we define success and all of that plays a role in this.
Wow, I feel I'm being coached right now. I love that advice because it's totally true, and I know that you know what has happened to me a lot of times. Let's say uh, I want to start to run. I start to get back to shape, and I start to run because of this mindset that I had as a professional athlete. Sometimes I feel I need to have a super big goal. So it's like for me, a lot of times have been like, okay, I'm gonna start running, but I need to sign up for a marathon. So I'm gonna start training for a marathon. And I do that because kind of like the shiny object or like that feeling that I need to have for being like training for something, as you said, of like I'm not just doing it for the exercise. I need to have like that big goal. But then I set up the training for a marathon. It's super hard to train for a marathon, right? And you need a lot of time. And of course, now my life is super different. I am an entrepreneur, and some days are like super hyper busy. So I don't have the time to put in during the weekend to run 15 miles on a Saturday when I am just like destroyed from the weekend. I just need to sleep and rest. So a lot of times I just start and I've had this feeling a lot of times where like, okay, if I can't train for the marathon, then what's the point? I'm going out for a run, and then I stop running, and then I stop exercising. So it's super true.
I know. It's almost like I've done this before. You are not alone. And it's not even just ex athletes. We can put this in so many different contexts. I work with people who say, oh, I used to play hockey and then my knees were bad, so I can't do anything. I was like, really? Because there's a whole bunch of things you can do that really don't affect like your knees in the way that hockey did. So we get very myopic and very, we have a very specific identity to who or what we were. And if we can't be that, then we can't be anything. Well, sometimes we just have to redefine, where are we currently? And I always encourage people to think about, where are you now and what can you do? I think we very often focus on what we can't do instead of focusing on what we can do. And when you buy in and you understand how your specific human, not your unique named individual self, but the human that you're in charge of, I mean, I don't care if you're an athlete, you're still a human. So you need to move your body.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't have to be some super duper competitive athlete or person or do marathons or triathlons. You just have to move your body in a lot of different ways. So whether you're athletic or not really has nothing to do with anything because you're a human. So humans are supposed to move and use their muscles and maybe sometimes elevate that heart rate, maybe work on some balance and core and flexibility. I mean, back in the day, that's just what we did because it was naturally built into our existence. Well, of course, modern society, we have taken away all the need to do those things. And that has led to the decline of our physical, mental, and emotional health, which is why now we have to be very intentional about how we're spending our time, our energy, our money, because all of those things are going to eventually impact how we are physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Yeah, totally, totally. Hey, just a quick pause for a message from Waku, and we will be right back to the interview. We are very excited to let everyone know we've just launched Waku's crowdfunding equity campaign through Republic, a platform that allows anyone to invest in private startups like Waku. Waku is now part of a very exclusive group of highly vetted startups from Republic, and now you can become an investor of Waku starting with investments as small as $100. If you'd like to learn more about why to invest in Waku and why this is such a great investment opportunity, you can go to republic.co/Waku. That's republic.co/WAKU. We will be thrilled to have you join us in our journey to bring to the world the most refreshing herbal tea with gut health benefits and help to create impact in the livelihoods of hundreds of Ecuadorian farmers. Let's get back to the show. And in your case, in your story, um, what have been some of the most challenging periods for you? If you would like to share that with the audience, maybe somebody is struggling with something similar that you did in the past, and your story can be helpful for them. Um, does any specific story comes to your mind?
That's always a really hard question for me to answer because I'm incredibly blessed and fortunate. And so far, I haven't been through anything that I would say is incredibly difficult. Now, in the moments, they were very difficult, but they're not super unique. They're things that almost everybody at some point is going to go through or some version of it. So, I think about like when I was in grade school and high school, and I was kind of under the spell of this particular girl, and I thought she was my best friend, and I was her best friend, and I felt super special, only to find out that she was just a giant manipulator and she isolated me from all the rest of our friends and had me thinking that they all didn't like me. And once I discovered all of this that had gone on for years, it was like shocking. And it was a little shocking that I actually didn't even know this was happening. So it really forced me to take a good look at myself and why did I even get under the spell in the first place? Maybe my first really big one that I would consider would be after I quit gymnastics. I decided to go on I'll call it a middle finger to the world tour and just eat whatever I wanted because I finally could. And that led to maybe gaining roughly 50 pounds in a little over a year. And while it was super fun getting there, it was not fun being there. And, then I had to figure myself out. And I knew that if I didn't make some serious changes and really get to the root of some of my challenges and my particular issues of why I am doing what I'm doing, that my future self was not going to be in a very good place. So working through a lot of that, body image and shame and judgment and all the nonsense that goes on with that. And then maybe from a relationship standpoint, when I was 24, thinking I'm going to marry the man of my dreams, only to get a phone call from a girl telling me that she and his child would be turning 1 next month. And she just thought I should know that before I married him. Yeah, I'd say that was kind of challenging at that time.
Oh,
Um,
that
yeah.
sounds challenging for sure. And in this period when you said you were gaining some weight and then whenever you were in this process, um, how how did you manage to uh, kind of like don't let that mindset of like that mindset of like just shaming or just like making you feel bad, how are you able to manage that period of your life, and how are you able to just like go back to being a bit more healthier, and go back to the wellness route.
Well, I tell you, it didn't happen overnight. It was a very long process. I definitely developed a very unhealthy relationship with food, probably because of gymnastics. I mean, I love gymnastics for lots of reasons, but that is something that came out of it. I don't blame anybody. You know, it's just the way I internalize things. And food was kind of my go-to to be a rebel and to finally be free and do whatever I wanted. Um, and yet even while I was, enjoying all these things, I really wasn't, because it didn't feel good in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
So just navigating through all of that, I think, um at the time, I mean, I did have guilt and shame and judgment. How could I not? Because I didn't look the way I wanted to look. I didn't look like I even really looked, and yet I mean, it was really foreign, from this little gymnast to this very unrecognizable person. And I had to unpack why I'm doing that, right? And so it did require me to get a little bit vulnerable and figure out my stuff and let go of beating myself up about making those choices. So letting go of, okay, yeah, you're here now. So let's not beat yourself up for getting here. Let's figure out how we're going to move forward. And a lot of it required me to re educate myself, or even just educate myself in the first place about nutrition, because this is back when we were taught that fat is the devil. So if you eat fat, you'll get fat, you'll have a heart attack, and then you'll die. Well, by this point, I was already fat for me. And so I didn't want to get fatter. So, of course, now I go fat free everything, because this is what we're told to do. And it's not working. So then clearly it's because I'm a failure and I'm not doing things right and I'm not trying hard enough. So that cycle of beating yourself up, and then, well, what do you do when you're feeling bad? You go comfort yourself with more food, because that's what you do. So I took it upon myself to really understand, how do you fuel your body properly? And that was a big piece of the puzzle. So I think for anybody who is struggling with nutrition or weight loss, even, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we have been taught a hot bunch of nonsense. We really have. We're taught that eating less is the way you do it, that exercising more is the way you do it, that going low fat is the way you do it, that cutting out entire food groups is the way you do it, that going on a magic diet is the way you do it. None of that is the way you do it. So I think for me, a big shift in mindset, and really not worrying about the weight loss, but rather focusing on the things to give the human that I'm in charge of what it needs in order to heal and what it needs in order to thrive. And it's very, very basic, right? It's real food in lots of different varieties, the appropriate amounts for your needs and your goals. It's consistent movement, lots of different types. It's stress management. It's having high quality interactions with other people. And it's giving yourself grace when maybe you make a choice that you didn't plan on making, not letting yourself get wrapped up into that cycle of self sabotage, but rather learning, okay, I was going to make this choice. That was my intention. Why didn't I follow through? Well, probably because I had an obstacle that showed up that I wasn't prepared for, or I just, in the moment, I just made that other choice, and I want to kind of, figure out why, so that I don't continue to do that. So it's a lot of self discovery. There is no magic in a meal plan or in an exercise routine. The magic is in your own soul, and it's in your own mind. And you have to figure out what the secret to unlock all of that is. And for everybody, it is just a little bit different.
Yeah, totally agree. I love what you just said, and I know that you mentioned right now um, fat during the diet, and I know that you early in this year you released a handbook that's called the PFF is your BFF. That's a handbook of it's a simple guide for the busybody. Um, and I wanted to ask you if you can extend a little bit more on what is PFF for the people that haven't heard about this before, um, and what was the inspiration for creating that book, that handbook.
Yes, thank you. So PFF is your BFF. Protein, fat, fiber is your best friend forever. I'm telling you, this is life changing, truly. So, protein, fat, and fiber all take a long time for the body to break down. So, it will provide a nice, slow, steady source of fuel, keeping our blood sugar steady, which is the key to your health and happiness. And it's the key to the health and happiness of people around you because the alternative is spiking and crashing blood sugar. And if we're in a cycle of spiking and crashing blood sugar, we're going to be irritated, we're going to be hangry, we're not going to be energized, we're going to have a plummet of metabolism. We're eventually going to go reach for sugar because when your blood sugar crashes, that's what you do. And so keeping blood sugar steady truly is it is life changing. And when you combine protein, fat, and fiber, and of course you get fiber from carbohydrates. I know right now a lot of people think carbohydrates are the devil. They're not. We need them. We just don't need to eat as many as we probably do eat. So finding that appropriate balance of that nutrition is going to be, a piece of the detail that everybody's got to figure out. But PFF is so simple so that when you learn what foods give me protein, what foods give me fat, what foods give me fiber, all you have to do is make your PFF combos. I know a lot of people think that eating healthy is so complicated and I don't have time for it. And it's got to be this big, elaborate production of this amazing meal. And it can be if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very, very simple. So when you nourish your body properly, consistently throughout the day, so you keep your blood sugar steady, you avoid the spike and crash, which makes it a lot easier to address some of the emotional desires for the foods that we might otherwise want to eat. So a lot of people tell me, "Oh, I'm really trying to not eat sweets." And this was my own journey. So when I, was going to go down and be really healthy, I would eat fat-free yogurt, a plain bagel, and a banana. It's all fat free. This good job, Michelle. Woohoo! Right? Except it's sugar, sugar, and more sugar. Tiny bit of protein in the yogurt, but barely any, because back in the day it wasn't Greek yogurt, it was Dannon light strawberry. It's all sugar. So I literally flooded my body with sugar, which meant it crashed. And no matter how much willpower I was going to have to be good and not eat cookies, I was eating cookies. And then, of course, I felt bad like, oh my gosh, you're such a loser. You can't even not eat cookies. What's wrong with you? So then I would just go eat more cookies because that's what you do when you're feeling bad. Well, from a physiological standpoint, I had set myself up for needing sugar because when your blood sugar crashes, your brain wants sugar. That's it. You don't even have the capacity to make a good choice. So, when you realize that protein, fat, and fiber, keeping blood sugar steady, it is a game changer. It makes those other choices a lot easier to address. It doesn't mean I don't still like sugar. I do. I really enjoy it. But there's not this, oh my God, I have to have it. I'm going to rip someone's head off if I don't have it kind of feeling. And I know a lot of people can relate to that feeling. So that is a big piece of the puzzle. And then, of course, I still have to address the emotional desires, the foods that we eat that connect us to culture or help us celebrate, or just simply because we love them. Recognizing that I can eat those, but probably not that often, or I'm not going to have outcomes that I like. So I made the PFF handbook. Honestly, it was kind of a segue from the major book I wrote, The You Revolution: The Journey of a Better Being. All of these things came from the live class that I would teach for Denver public school employees. And part of their homework would always be to come up with your PFF combos and share them with the class. I don't believe in doing meal plans. And I can't tell you how many people have said, Michelle, just give me a meal plan. Nope, not going to do it. Because I can tell you what to eat, but if you don't like the food, you're not going to make the food, you're not somewhere where you have access to that food, then that meal plan is completely useless. I want to teach you nutrition so you can go anywhere and make a healthy choice if you want to. So the class would always have to make their PFF combos and they would be like, can't you just give these to us? I'm like, They're all teachers. Do you just give your students the answers? No, you make them learn. That's what I'm doing. I'm making you learn. But finally, so much pressure, I thought, okay, it kind of, and somebody said, well, it's really unfair that you only share this with us. The rest of the world should know about PFF. Okay, fine. So that is why I wrote the PFF handbook, to really show people that it doesn't have to be complicated. It really doesn't. You can fuel your busy body very easily if you want to. You just have to learn a little bit and put a little bit of effort into it, but honestly, not that much.
Yeah, and to put like an example and to paint the picture a little bit, how would, in the example that you gave, that you ate banana and the sugar yogurt and peanut butter, did you say?
No, a plain bagel.
Plain bagel. So uh, with protein, fat, and fiber guide, how would you change that meal for making it PFF?
Yeah, so now because we have things like Greek yogurt, I would make sure it's Greek yogurt because there's a significant amount of protein. Depending on the brand and all of that, you still have to read labels. But I would get plain Greek yogurt. I would add my own berries to it. And maybe I would add some nuts. Maybe I'd even put a scoop of my chocolate protein powder in it because that's super delicious. So now I have chocolatey Greek yogurt with some blueberries and a handful of walnuts, and it's delicious.
Wow,
Maybe if I
sounds
still need more nutrition, I'll have a piece of whole grain toast with some avocado on it or some nut butter on it. It just depends on how much you need to fuel yourself at that moment. But that's the beauty of it, is when you start to understand what foods give you what nutrients, it's very easy. You just have to ask yourself, where's my protein, where's my fat, where's my fiber?
I was about to say that sounds super easy and sounds delicious as well.
It is.
I
That's the
love
other
it.
myth, that eating healthy doesn't taste good.
Yeah,
Not true.
that's yeah. I agree. I really like this approach of PFF. It makes a lot of sense, and it sounds like an easy thing to do. If people want to check this out, I know that's available on Amazon, right?
Yes, both of the books are available on Amazon, so easy to get them.
To be closing the conversation, to start to close the conversation, I wanted to ask, what would be some recommendations that you can give people uh, that is starting to try to implement better habits and to really stick with them? I know we spoke already about two things. One thing is not being like overly ambitious and just like being more realistic to your reality and to your daily routines. What can be some other recommendations that you can give people to be able to start and for them to maximize the chances of sticking with that new plan or sticking with those new better habits?
Such a great question to wrap up on, because this is really the starting point, honestly. I really am passionate about people creating their vision. So you have to be able to visualize what you want your life to be, whether you want it to be this way in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years. If you can't visualize what you want, it's going to be really difficult to get there. I'm a big fan of the vision board. I have a virtual vision boarding party every January. So looking forward to this one coming up in 2022. And, it's just that visual representation of what you want to achieve, maybe some reminders of what your intentions are. That's kind of how I look at a vision board. A vision board for me is how I intend to spend my time, money, and energy. I mean, it always comes down to choices. So, what are the things that I need to do in order to get the outcome that I'm looking for? Create that vision, and then determine how close or how far away am I from what I want, and what do I need to do to start getting there. And then you have to put a plan in place. You can't just say, I'm going to try to eat better. That is a statement. It doesn't really mean anything other than that. You actually have to do something. So then we have to drill down into the details of, number one, what does eat better even mean for you? And what are some things that we need to put in place to make that happen? And I think another really big piece of this puzzle for everybody is to figure out your why. Now, that's like, what's your why? That's a big buzz phrase. It has been for a while. But It truly is. It's going to be the driving factor because it's going to be the conversation you have that's either going to steer you into a choice to help you get closer to the goal or steer you away from a choice that is getting you farther away from your goal. Because everything we do is getting us in one direction or the other. And keeping in mind that it's the cumulative effect of the choices that is going to impact the outcome the most. So when you can drill into your why, your personally meaningful reason for why you are going to make hard choices, that's going to be the internal conversation, so that in the moment when you're feeling like you're going to make a different choice, you're going to take a pause and you're going to remember your why. And then you're going to proceed to make your choice intentionally. And if it is a choice that is getting you farther away from your goal, at least you're making it intentionally, and you should own it. Hopefully it's worth it. Otherwise, why are you doing it? But also recognize that you can't do that over and over and still get to the goal that you want. So I think establishing your vision, getting very clear about your specifics, your why, and then setting your plan in place. Embrace the journey. It's a process. So you got to embrace the process. Don't worry about the outcome, but focus on the actions that are going to help you get to that outcome instead.
I love it. Such actionable recommendations, Michelle. Thank you so much. If people wants to learn more about you and your programs, what's the best way to reach out to you, or where are the best places to find more about you?
My website is your one-stop shop, betterbeings.net. It has the click links to all the social media, which I am not very active on, but you can still follow me there. And it has click links to all my other things as well. So betterbeings.net is the place to go.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Michelle. It was a pleasure to have you here. I learned a lot, and I'm sure that people that's listening got away with a lot of actionable things and actionable steps that you can start taking to start becoming a better being.
Well, thank you, Nico. I appreciate the opportunity to share my message with your listeners.
Talk to you soon, Michelle. Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Nico again, and just a few more things before you take off. If you'd like to be part of the Waku tribe to be the first one to know about the launch of exclusive flavors, special promotions, and content about health and wellness, just go to livewaku.com, that's livewaku.com, and sign up for our email list. And if you sign up, I hope you enjoy being part of our community.